On to our third match. We're currently 1-2. We had a bit of a rough time against Pox, partly through them drawing the Stone Cold Nuts of Thoughtseize Tendrils, Surgical Extraction Tendrils Game 2, and partly through them having the nuts of Thoughtseize Infernal Tutor, Surgical Extraction Infernal Tutor Game 2. Compounded by us making a mistake where we should have taken the Abyss instead of taking a Smallpox. Smallpox, we can just develop enough artifact mana to play through and eventually build enough lands. Alright, now we're going to see that we're on Stoneblade. Stoneblade with a fairly mediocre hand as well. So they have a Force of Will with no blue card and a Stoneforge Mystic. I almost like Infernal Tutor for LED there, and just trying to kill them next turn. Okay, so opponents cast a Force of Will, which we're actually quite happy about. So what did they pitch? They pitched a Snapcaster Mage. So now our opponent is just literally down to nothing, I think. Alright, so we're going to take the second LED, and I think we should be able to next turn tutor into LED LED tutor, grab Past in Flames, have 2 mana floating. Four mana floating after the Dark Ritual. 5 mana floating after Infernal Tutor. This might be dicey. We really need a Ritual. Or to, you know, put Ad Nauseam back. So I think this might mean that we can actually kill them now if we redraw the Tendrils. So I think we can actually now, instead of going for Ad Nauseam, if we use Probe to grab Tendrils of Agony, when we okay, so we're going for Ad Nauseam anyway. I think we had a Past in Flames line there. So I think we could have redrawn the Tendrils. LED, Infernal Tutor. This is going to be enough regardless. LED, Infernal Tutor, we're going to have 2 mana in Mana Pool afterwards, 4 mana after Dark Ritual, Tutor, LED, Tutor. Okay, and our opponent's just going to scoop. We're going to have a slightly greedier sideboard plan than against Miracles. We're going to cut Past in Flames because Blade tends to play more Rest in Peace, despite still playing Snapcaster Mage. We want Empty the Warrens. It's just, I personally tend to find Empty quite strong against Blade decks. They do have Batterskull, but barring that, there's not much they can do about a resolved empty. Ground Seals, Xander Swarm, and Decay, so we just want to deal with things like Ether Swarm, Canonist, or Meddling Mage. Prevent being swamped by counter magic if that ever looks like a possibility, and just shut off snaps if we see them. We're not cutting a land at the moment. Blue-white Blade does tend to play Ground Seal. Oh, sorry, not Ground Seal, Wasteland. And we're going to keep this hand. This hand is actually fantastic. And our opponent has brought in Leyline of Sanctity. So we're not super excited to see that. However, we're not stone cold to it either. It looks like our opponent is scared enough of either Burn or Storm that they think a Leyline is necessary, which is interesting. It's a lot of sideboard slots if you a lot of sideboard slots required for a Leyline. So we brainstormed end of turn as we were really close to just being able to go for it. And we've managed to brainstorm into the nuts. So we're just going to try to go off here. It's pretty obvious at the moment that our opponent has a force of will. Having said that, so we're expecting force here. I think a better play there would have actually been to go for Past in Flames. So the reason we go to Past in Flames is we can float one red, and instead of tutoring for Tendrils, it's interesting. Opponent has let everything resolve. Instead of tutoring for Tendrils, we could have tutored for Empty the Warrens and put 20 goblins on the board, which is let's just say pretty miserable for our opponent. We need to keep going at this point. Past in Flames would be really... No, so we have to stop here. And I think we can scoop. And so we're swapping the Ground Seals for Chains of Vapor. Chain of Vapor, look, it's not a guaranteed out, but it helps us beat a white Leyline. We're definitely keeping this hand. And what we're really going to hope for is that we get to Gataxian Probe into an Infernal Tutor. And that the Infernal Tutor... Okay, so our opponent tried to mulligan a little bit, possibly for a Leyline. Okay, opponent's got double snap and a ponder. We're fine with that. I think we should, yeah, so we can duress the ponder. I think we really want to yeah, Brainstorm's perfect. So it looks like maybe our opponent has Red Elemental Blast. Have we seen any red sources yet? I wonder what our opponent's doing. All right. So anyway, if this Brainstorm resolves, we really want to hit Duress, Infernal Tutor. Okay, so we lost connection to the game. That's the problem. So we want to draw Duress, Infernal Tutor, and a blank here. We don't really care what the other card is. Gataxian Probe might be the only thing that's relevant. We just want to build Storm, and if we can drop 12 Goblins on the board this turn, we win, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think our opponent timed out during this match. So I think he rejoins the game in a minute or so. Might just try to skip ahead a tiny bit. Alright, so we're going to get there eventually. Okay, so what do we brainstorm into? Ponder, Brainstorm, Ponder. Alright, I guess we're playing fearlessly at the moment. We're not worrying about a wasteland anymore. I think we're too far ahead, and our opponent's a little bit too far behind. And we're going to ponder, and we're going to look specifically for a piece of business. If we don't hit a piece of business, we're almost definitely shuffling. So I still don't know if my opponent's client or connection is going slow, or if they're about to lose connection again, or if they're just desperately thinking about what to do about a fetch land. Okay, we're going to shuffle that. We have the tutor now. I think if we don't draw interaction next turn, we're going to for sure brainstorm. Our opponent's going to ponder. So now they're quite likely to have drawn something, so I think we need to wait. Okay, so he's casting Surgical on Duress. So might as well fire this Brainstorm off as well. We now know our opponent's hand is 2 Snapcaster Mages. We can put back a Dark Ritual and a Cabal Ritual here. Okay, so we're all in on resolving that Dark Ritual this turn. So we'll get the shuffle off the Surgical Extraction. Opponent has double Snapcaster Mage and 1 other card. That 1 card's not Force of Will. Alright, let's Gitaxian Probe. Now, if it's a Force of Will, we will pedal and play a Xantid Swarm. So we got really lucky this turn. Now, opponent has no choice but to force Xantid Swarm. And it's going to leave us with... I suppose he can not force Xantid Swarm if he's extra greedy. If he lets it resolve, we win next turn. If he doesn't let it resolve, he has 1 natural draw to stop us from winning next turn. That was very, very greedy of him. Okay, so he knew he had the Brainstorm. So he now needs something like a Swords to Plowshares. It's possible he might Wasteland us or Surgical us here, but I don't think either of those we care about. So we'll just bash him with the Xantid Swarm. I guess something like Fairy Macabre could also be a problem for us here, just because we're going to have to pitch the Tendrils. But I don't think it's worth playing around. And everything here should now be more or less just academic. We'll pitch the Tendrils, we'll grab Past in Flames. Flash everything back. We have enough Gitaxian Probes plus an Infernal Tutor to grab an LED to give us lots of blue if we want to go for the glory kill here. And our opponent's fetching. I assume he must be unfamiliar with his Antid Swarm. Okay, and that's the end of the match.